Hello, welcome back. My name is Daniel Gomali. I'm a chess grandmaster living in Alnwick in Northumberland. And welcome back to my channel, Hometown Chess Hero. And today we're going to talk about the rising super talents. And in England, the top super talent, or one of the top two super talents who's gathering a lot of attention is Bodhana Sivanandan. I'm not sure about the pronunciation of his surname. But she is an extremely promising player. She's only 8 years old, and she's already finishing very high up on the leaderboards in tournaments like the European Blitz Championships. Not just for women, but also for men. So she played in the male, kind of like the overall Blitz Championship, I should say. And there were only about 3 or 4 players, but some of them were quite strong. And Irina Bolmoga actually drew attention to her performance, which is very credible of her because Bodhana finished ahead of her. She finished the top. Bodhana finished as the top female, which is incredible at the age of 8. And she's already competing with grandmasters, with IMs at Blitz. So that just goes to show the potential she has. And I think that she's not a one-off actually. There's actually a few players around about her age who are extremely promising. Also from this part of the world, there's Superkids Banerjee. And there's Freddie Gordon, who's a little bit older. He's 13, but he's very promising. We've already talked about Shreyas Royal. There's Faustino Oro, who's moved from Argentina to Spain. He's only 10. There's a kid called Roman, who is extremely promising and beat a few GMs in a recent Rapid Play Championship. He's only 8. So amazing talent. I think this is the most talented group of players I've ever seen for their age group. The kind of 8 to 10-year-olds are like just amazing players that they're scarily strong. Yeah, I never remember during the course of my chess career losing to like 9 and 10-year-olds before and feeling like it was normal. But now it almost feels like it's normal to lose to a 9-year-old. So anyway, we're going to have a look at this game that Bodhana plays. She's playing against Zain Patel, who is also from London. And Bodhana was white. Zain is a very well prepared player. He played Bishop G4. That, I believe, is theory. So I think you can play F3 here and try and win a pawn, but Bodhana played Knight E2, allowing black to recapture the pawn. C4 feels like a reasonable try. Bishop D6. Yeah, so again, an example of natural moves. This is one of the things you notice with these super talents, is they're very, very good at playing natural moves. Bishop E3 is a very natural move. Putting the bishop on a good square, where it's defended by the pawn. Now, I think all white needs to do really is activate this queen, break the pin from the bishop there, and then you can move the knight. However, that seems to be something that white struggles to achieve during the game. So I think at this point, she was concerned about the threat of Queen E5. However, Queen E5 can be met with, for example, Bishop F4, possibly even just simply G3. So I think if you break the pin here, I think white has quite a reasonable position, in my opinion. White should not be worse here. Maybe white isn't better, but I don't think white has any great issues. However, there is a trick as well that if you try to exchange bishops, you'd lose the game on the spot because your queen would take. However, Bodhana plays Bishop D4. So I think that's slight misconception in a way because the bishop seems to be a bit more vulnerable on D4. So I'm not sure about that move. Rook E1, Bishop B4. Bishop to C3, and Knight E4, good move by Zain, space gaining move, attacking the pawn on C3. Potentially as well, maybe eyeing up some kind of knight takes F2 ideas as well. But Bodhana played Queen D5. Actually, when you look at her games, there's a couple of things that stand out. Firstly, she's a very aggressive player. She's fearless, I would say. fearless player. That's often a thing, you know, that you notice with players who are young. They haven't had time to build up that scar tissue. That we older relics that tends to happen. So they haven't had that time to build up that scar tissue. So she's very, very aggressive. She's very, very tactically minded. And Queen d5 is a very good move, I think. Attacking the bishop. Knight f6 was played. And now Zane went on the warpath. He decided to play Queen a3. I'm not sure what Queen a3 was threatening was. It's basically tying the knight down. So he understands that White wants to activate the knight, but then Queen takes. c3 would happen. Maybe a little trick as well. If you take on c5, maybe there's going to be a rook c8, and then... Although, actually, I can then come back to f4, so maybe that was an option. And maybe I'll set up some idea that bishop e2, I'm going to go rook e2 and hope for queen c3, bishop f7 again. It's a bit too transparent. Also bishop f7, there's also bishop e2, there's also bishop f7, but then king would move and you'd probably be doing quite well. I think you just recapture. And some variation like this, there's queen f7 actually, and bishop takes. And after queen b2, we have rook e1, queen d2, probably king f1 is okay for black. So variations like that are possible. However, that didn't happen in the game. White played queen c1. Yeah, interesting to know. We might check this in a minute with a computer. Why she didn't play queen takes c7. So rook e4 was played, knight d4. And then queen d2 was played. Yeah, so white could meet c5 with either knight f3 or knight b3. So c5 is not an issue at the moment. But knight e4 is a little bit of an issue. And then he played a very calm and patient move, saying rook d8. Essentially creating a threat of knight takes c3. So white played knight f5 again. We've seen her style. She's a very aggressive player. She's not afraid to play aggressive attacking moves. That's a good sign. It might well be that at some point she might have to rein that style in and become a little bit more patient. But yeah, she clearly is a very dangerous player. When you're that aggressive, it makes you dangerous. And the player that I would compare her most to is Judith Polgar, who was also phenomenally strong when she was a very young player and continued that. So we're hoping in English chess that Bodhana, who's shown as much promise as Judith Polgar had when she was younger, if not more, is potentially going to continue that progress in the same way that Judith continued and end up in the world elite. Because that certainly feels like something that she's capable of doing. So queen c5 was played. Yeah, now I would think about dropping the knight back to e3. That's what she's played, yeah. Maybe actually on this move, maybe black should have considered queen f4 as being, that looks more natural than queen c5, even more natural than queen c5 to me. Because after queen f4, if you play a knight e3, then rook d2 looks very dangerous. Check. You can play rook f1, but then there's moves like rook takes f2. It seems like black's winning. So you can't play this variation. So what can you play after queen f4? Probably have to play knight d4, right? Looks very suspicious for white, this position. There is the move c5, but c5 will be met with knight b3. But then there's various ideas like knight f2, for example. Take it, although then c5 is hanging. There's also knight g5 as an option. But go back to this position, you could also just take on c3 and win a pawn for nothing. So that was also possible. So queen f4 is possible. It's also not bad what he played. And c went queen b5. Aware of the dangers, he wants to get the queens off. But now black has managed to win a pawn. So I think at this point, black is possibly even winning the game. Or certainly has a much better position. However, over the next few moves, as we'll see, C manages to outplay Zane. So where did Zane go wrong? Maybe this next move could be the culprit. I wonder whether black should just play a move like bishop g6. So I'm not sure rook c1 is necessarily a threat. You could get a variation like this. And we take here. Now how close is this to a draw? I'm not sure. It could end up being quite drawish if we got something like this and the knight checked on e7. Although bishop e4 is also possible here. Maybe bishop e4 black is doing well. So it's possible that Zane missed a chance around here. I'm not entirely sure. But he played knight e4, f3 was played. Again, it might even be best to come. The best move might have even been to come back, but then rook c1 actually, that's a bit of a problem. So that seems reasonable. But now you have a problem with this pawn. Like, how do you defend the pawn? Because white wants to go rook c1, and there's also this issue of maybe going g4 and making his bishop bad on g6. So the same went knight b5. Yeah, and the other problem is you'd like to push the f pawn at some point, but at the moment the king, the pawn is pinned against the king. So the same went knight b5. Rook d3 feels a bit desperate. This ideas like knight d5 here as well. I'd be slightly concerned. Maybe Zane was getting short of time at this point because knight d5 feels like an issue for black because knight f4 is suddenly threatened. Maybe white could try and win the game. Although there is knight d4, and you can't take here because of knight b3. Well, you can because you probably have knight e7, right? So you probably can even do this. But in the game, white played very natural move, king f2. You know, again, what I keep saying about these super talents, they will play natural moves, they will play good moves quickly because they've got natural talent. They've got good intuition, they train a lot. They've got good aptitude for chess anyway, and king f2 would have been like second nature to Bodhana. Rook c3, rook d1, another excellent move. It's very important that the rook remains active. Not g4 and knight d5, and already we see that all of a sudden white is completely out of danger because we've got this knight takes c7. So she's completely outplayed him with natural and good moves. And Zane's a very strong player, so it bodes very well for Bodhana that Siam outplayed Zane over this phase of the game. And h4 was played, and now this is very drawish. I mean, bishop c2 is a good move because I think your bishop is probably worse than white's bishop now, so it's a good idea to exchange it off and try and make a draw. Even here, she doesn't stop the tactics. Like, you know, you could just wait, but she's got a very tactical and aggressive mind. G5, I love it. And then just like there's just no danger you're ever going to lose this position. Zane's high rated, but will he be high rated in the future? Will I be high rated in the future than Bodhana? Probably not. In a few years' time, she's probably going to overtake me. I would imagine, with the potential that she's shown already. However, there is a slight kind of warning sign. Is not every junior ends up achieving their full potential. Some of them end up falling by the wayside, either because they lose interest in chess or they find the external pressures too much. There's already a lot of hype around Bodhana. Maybe we need to rein in the hype and just let her play, right? Let's, you know, Gormali, stop doing the YouTube videos. You know, let's stop posting about her on social media. Let's just, you know, let's just quieten it down. Let her continue. But she's going to get a lot of government support and funding. The danger is that we could lose some of these young talents like Shreyas Royal, like Bodhana, to potentially other federations if we don't show an interest in them. So it's a good thing that we secured some government funding for chess. Otherwise, there's a danger that they could go, look, some other federation could come in and say, look, here's X amount of money, come and play for our federation. We're seeing that a lot recently. So that there is a danger of that. I'll be interested to know who you think is the most promising super talent in the world as things stand. Like, you can pick anyone. You could even pick an older player like Pragananda. Who do you think is going to be dominating chess in sort of 5 or 10 years' time? But at the moment, anyway, who cares about that? The good thing is that Bodhana is shown a lot of potential, and it'd be very surprising if he didn't at least win British titles in the future, and potentially could win world titles as well. Let's just have a quick look at that game and see with the engine on whether black was ever winning at any point. Now, after King F2, no. After Rook D3, yeah, Knight D5 was already better for white. Interesting. So clearly black misplayed this, because at some point black was a lot better. Yeah, so I said Queen F4. Oh, Queen F4, there was Knight E7. Okay, so actually the game was reasonably accurate. There wasn't any like big misses. So I said that at some point in the opening, when black went Queen E7, yeah, Queen C2 was the top move. I didn't think Bishop D4 was that great, and that kind of lost any advantage that white had. So it's interesting, there was no big misses. It was actually, black was better, but wasn't winning. And pretty accurate game, I'd say. I mean, it's very impressive at the level of, and the maturity that he shows at such a young age. Actually, Queen B5 was a mistake. Should have gone Queen B8 and then Queen B1. The Queen B5, there was this trade, and actually more important to take the F2 pawn. I must admit, I would have taken the C3 as well, mainly for the reason that suddenly you've got this passed outside pawn. But yeah, as I said, like I suggested Bishop G6. It's also better, but not as good as Bishop E2 is the best move. Hard to see. So you got to play so accurately to beat Bodhana already. You know, it's not like, okay, I'm trying to find how accurate the game is. Only study, we could turn the game into a study. And then have a look and see how accurately she played. What was the level of accuracy in that game? Here we are, Bodhana. No, only the study contributors, never mind. Anyway, it was a very, very good game. We could open the study. Does that change anything? No, apparently you can't. Anyway, yeah, so thanks for watching the video. Please leave your comments down below. Who do you think is the most promising young junior, both in English chess and also, or British chess, and also around the world? Thanks again for watching, and please like and subscribe my video.